Ever get a whiff of like, I don't know, freshly baked cookies or something, and suddenly you're 8 years old again?
It's amazing how powerful scent is.
Right. It's like this
Hmm.
instant time machine. And you know what else has that effect? Roses. But, and this is key for our deep dive today, we're going way beyond just, oh, that's pretty.
Because there's so much more to it.
Exactly. And thankfully, we've got this source that digs into like the history, the symbolism, even the science behind why this flower is so captivating. It's not just about looks, right?
Absolutely. In fact, this source jumps right into how the rose actually captivates us on multiple sensory levels.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, they specifically call the fragrance a symphony of scents.
Okay, a touch dramatic
Maybe
maybe.
a little.
But I get it because when you actually stop and like really smell a rose, you realize how complex it is. You've got those fruity notes, sometimes it's spicy, even honeyed almost.
It's true. And this source digs into how certain scents, especially florals like the rose, have been so highly prized throughout history. And it's not just because they smell nice. There's actually a scientific reason for it.
Mhm.
Our sense of smell is directly wired to the emotional centers of our brain.
Interesting.
So when you encounter a rose, it's not just your nose enjoying it, it's triggering memories, feelings. It's a really powerful experience.
See, this is what I love about these deep dives, those aha moments.
Mm.
But the source doesn't stop at smell. It gets like almost poetic, talking about how the delicate petals unfold like chapters in a love story, contrasted with those thorns, you
Yeah.
know?
And that duality is key to understanding the rose's symbolism. It's interesting to use the phrase a love story because it is broader than just romance. Think
Hmm.
about it. You have this incredible tenderness, but also this fierceness, this resilience all wrapped up in one flower. It's no wonder artists have been drawn to that for centuries.
Totally. And speaking of art, they do mention how the rose pops up everywhere, from those hyper-realistic Dutch Golden Age paintings all the way to like pre-Raphaelite art. It's clearly been a muse for a long time. But then they bring up this whole florography thing, secret messages through flowers. Was that really a thing?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the Victorian era where social rules were so strict, especially around love and courtship.
Right. You couldn't just like slide into the DMs back then.
Exactly. So, as this source explains, floriography, or the language of flowers, became this incredibly nuanced form of communication. People, especially lovers, would use different flowers, colors, even the way they were arranged to send coded messages.
So instead of sliding into the DMs, you're sending a bouquet.
Oh.
That's kind of adorable, actually. But did specific flowers mean different things?
Oh, yeah. They mention how specific colors had meaning. White for innocence, yellow for friendship,
Okay, I'm seeing a theme here.
and of course, red for passionate, enduring love. It's fascinating how the rose, in particular, could symbolize different types of love, from the pure and innocent to the deeply romantic. This wasn't just like casual flirting. People were expressing deep emotions through these floral arrangements.
Talk about saying it with flowers, right? But, you know, the source goes beyond just romantic love. They talk about the rose as a symbol of resilience, of enduring beauty. I mean, think about it. These things can bloom in the craziest places.
Exactly. And they point out that while delicate in appearance, roses are remarkably hardy. They can withstand harsh weather, poor soil conditions. In a way, that makes them a powerful symbol of hope, don't you think? The ability to not only survive, but thrive, even in challenging circumstances. It's a message that has resonated across cultures and throughout history.
I love that. And that's what I find so fascinating, right? It's not like the rose is some like relic of the past. It still feels so relevant today,
Oh, absolutely.
maybe even more so.
It's true. And this source actually makes a point about how in our modern world, where we're bombarded with technology and instant gratification,
Right, right.
the simple act of like engaging with a rose becomes almost revolutionary.
It's true. It's like we crave that connection to nature, to beauty, to something that forces us to slow down and just be present, you know?
Yeah.
And the source actually talks about this, how the rose is a multisensory experience. They even mention the velvety texture of the petals, the way the light filters through them.
Mm.
Honestly, it's making me want to like stop and sniff some roses after this.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
that full sensory engagement that makes the experience so powerful. In a world dominated by screens, the tactile, fragrant, almost visceral experience of a rose, I think, becomes even more
I
precious.
totally. It's like those Dutch Golden Age paintings they kept mentioning, you know?
Yeah.
Those artists were masters at capturing those like minute details, the way light plays on the petals, the almost translucent quality of the dew. You can practically feel the texture just by looking at them.
Exactly, exactly. They understood that true beauty often lies in those subtle details. And I think the fact that we're still drawn to those paintings centuries later speaks volumes about the timelessness of nature as a subject.
And it's not just visual art either, right? Think
Oh.
about how many poems, songs, stories, entire plays even, are inspired by the rose.
Yeah.
Shakespeare, Rumi, Gertrude Stein, they've all used the rose as this metaphor, this potent symbol to
Clear.
explore everything from love and loss to the very nature of beauty itself.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
Okay, but here's the million-dollar question. Why the rose? Why not, say, the dandelion or the daisy? What is it about this flower, out of all the flowers in the world, that has sparked such enduring fascination? And across cultures and throughout history,
Right, right.
it's got to be something.
It's the question.
Right.
And I think, this source kind of hints at it, but there's no single answer,
Right.
no definitive explanation.
Right.
They talk about it being a combination of factors. The intoxicating fragrance, the captivating form, the rich history and symbolism attached to it.
Right.
But it's almost like, why those things?
Mm.
Why not other things?
Or maybe it's something deeper, more
Yeah.
primal,
Yeah.
like hardwired into us from the dawn of humanity. There's something almost mystical about it, when you think about it that way.
There is. There is.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this deep dive, I think, so compelling. We've explored the multifaceted nature of the rose, its symbolism, its presence in art, history, even its effect on our senses.
Right.
But ultimately, the question of its enduring allure remains open-ended. It's a mystery that continues to fascinate and inspire, I think.
Which I think is a perfect place to leave things for our listeners to ponder. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think? What is it about the rose that continues to captivate us, even in our fast-paced modern world? Is it the scent, the symbolism, the sheer beauty of it? Or is it something more, something we haven't quite put our finger on yet?
It's a question worth considering. Because in a world obsessed with novelty and the next big thing, perhaps the enduring allure of the rose lies in its ability to remind us of the timeless power of beauty in nature, to inspire, to connect us to something greater than ourselves. Something that transcends the ever-changing tides of trends and technology.
As we've been unpacking all this stuff about the rose, it's striking me that part of its magic is how personal it is. It's this global icon, right? But it's it means something different to everyone.
It really does.
Yeah.
And even though this particular source didn't get into a lot of personal stories, they did touch on how we each kind of layer our own associations onto the rose.
Totally. I bet for some people it just screams romance,
Oh, yeah.
first dates, anniversaries, all that. But then for someone else, it could be tied to a childhood memory or a specific person.
Right.
It's almost like a secret language only you understand, which I think is really cool.
And I think that's precisely what gives it that staying power.
Yeah.
This source talked about the rose's presence across history, in art, all these different areas, but it's that personal connection that keeps it relevant for us on an individual level. It's both this universal thing, but also intensely intimate at the same time.
I love that. It's yeah, we can talk about symbolism and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, a rose makes you feel something.
It does.
And those feelings are going to be totally unique to you based on your own experiences.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that even in something as seemingly simple and familiar as a rose, there's this incredible depth and complexity just waiting to be uncovered.
Well said. So the next time you encounter a rose, and I feel like with Valentine's Day coming up, there might be a few floating around. Don't just breeze by.
Right.
Take a moment, breathe it in, really look at it, and just ask yourself, what does this rose mean to me? You might be surprised by what you discover.